Rampage Jackson scandal has become one of the ugliest, most explosive controversies in the recent history of combat sports. What should have been a routine night of entertainment, the kind of small-time wrestling event where fans come to cheer, boo, and escape reality for a while, turned into something darker, something that blurred the line between scripted performance and real-life brutality. And now, the scandal has escalated even further, as alleged comments from none other than Ronda Rousey herself have surfaced, taking the controversy to a new level. It began on a night that should have faded into obscurity. Rampage Jackson, the son of MMA legend Quentin Rampage Jackson, was performing at a local wrestling event, still trying to build his own name in the shadow of his father's legacy. He had been looking for ways to prove himself, ways to show he could stand alone and not just be remembered as Rampage's kid. But what happened inside that ring didn't prove his toughness. It ended up shattering whatever reputation he might have been building. In the now infamous clip, Raja lifted veteran performer Psycho Stu high into the air and slammed him into the mat with so much force that he immediately went limp. The impact was sickening. Stu wasn't moving, his body lying motionless in front of the stunned audience. Instead of stopping, instead of recognizing his opponent was unconscious, Raja unleashed a flurry of punches, over 20 unanswered blows to the head of a defenseless man. For a few moments, the crowd thought this might be part of the show. Wrestling, after all, thrives on drama, surprise, and spectacle. But within seconds, the illusion shattered. The referee froze, unsure of what to do. Audience members screamed, fellow wrestlers at ringside rushed forward, but they were too late. By the time Raja was pulled away, the damage had already been done. Clips from the incident spread across social media almost instantly. Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok were flooded with slow-motion replays of Stu being slammed and then pummeled while unconscious. The silence in the crowd, the panic of fans, the raw violence of Raja's actions, it all became undeniable. What people had just witnessed wasn't a performance. It wasn't a storyline. It was an assault. Speculation spread just as fast. Eyewitnesses claimed Stu was rushed to the hospital with a concussion, fractures, and possibly even life-threatening injuries. Some reports even suggested that he had briefly flatlined before being revived, though official details remained scarce. The uncertainty only fueled the outrage. Even without confirmation, the whispers were enough to paint Raja as more than reckless. He was now being talked about as dangerous and possibly even criminal. By morning, hashtags calling for his arrest were trending worldwide. Analysts and athletes from every corner of the fight world chimed in. Ryan Garcia tweeted that it was the worst thing he'd seen in years. Derek Brunson admitted he initially thought it was staged, only to be horrified when he realized it wasn't. Influencers broke down the footage frame by frame, pointing out how Stu's body had gone limp instantly after the slam, and yet Raja continued hammering away. The consensus was brutal. Raja had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. The fallout was compounded by Raja's own past behavior. Old livestream clips resurfaced, showing him bragging about wanting to make things real and prove himself outside of his father's shadow. Instead of looking like a young man who lost his temper in the heat of the moment, Raja now looked like someone who had premeditated this outburst, who had been waiting for the right moment to turn performance into reality. That perception is what truly destroyed him in the eyes of the public. In combat sports, respect is everything. Fighters go to war in the cage, in the ring, or on the mat, but there is an unspoken code. You protect your opponent when they can no longer protect themselves. Raja had violated that code in the most public, undeniable way possible. Rampage Jackson, desperate to defend his son, tried to explain the assault by pointing to a beer can incident earlier that night, where Psycho Stu had allegedly struck Raja backstage. But leaked footage showing the two men reconciling afterward destroyed that narrative. To fans, Rampage's words didn't sound like a father protecting his son. They sounded like excuses. And the more he defended Raja, the more fans felt that Rampage himself was tarnishing his own legacy. Meanwhile, Raja's live-stream bravado from hours earlier became the smoking gun in the court of public opinion. He had been telling viewers he wanted to mess up a pro wrestler for real. That one clip flipped the narrative completely. It wasn't just a heat-of-the-moment mistake. It looked intentional, even planned. Suddenly, lawyers on sports panels debated what charges could be filed. Words like aggravated assault and attempted manslaughter began to swirl. And just when it seemed like the scandal had reached its peak, another layer of chaos was added. Alleged quotes from Ronda Rousey began surfacing online. Supposedly, she had called Raja's actions a disgrace to fighters everywhere, and even claimed that if she were still fighting, she'd personally deal with him herself. At first, no one could confirm if she had truly said these things. The earliest mentions came from forums and small blogs, not official interviews. But that didn't matter. The quotes spread like wildfire. Because the words sounded exactly like something Ronda would say: direct, uncompromising, and disgusted by what she perceived as disrespect to the sport. Her name carried weight. Even years removed from her UFC career, Rousey still symbolized toughness, dominance, and no-nonsense respect for the fight game. The idea that she had spoken up about Raja electrified the conversation. Fans debated endlessly in comment threads. Was she speaking as a fighter, as a cultural icon, or just as someone disgusted by what she saw? Did she really care enough to follow the scandal? None of those questions had clear answers, but her alleged words carried power anyway. More alleged quotes soon surfaced. A YouTube channel claimed she had called the attack a betrayal of everything fighters stand for. A Twitter thread suggested she told a reporter, "If I was still fighting, I'd handle him myself." None of it could be verified, but the ambiguity only added to the fire. Fans couldn't prove the quotes were real, but they couldn't prove they were fake either. And in the world of viral scandals, perception often matters more than truth. Memes popped up almost instantly. Edits showing Rousey locking in her signature armbar with captions like, "This is what Raja deserves." Others joked that the fight would last less than a minute. The narrative was shifting. It wasn't just about what Raja had done anymore. It was about how legends like Rousey were allegedly responding. And that's when the scandal escalated into something larger than just Raja's outburst. This wasn't just about one man's violence. It was now about legacy, about the values of combat sports, and about what it means when icons of the past weigh in on the controversies of the present. Once the alleged Ronda Rousey quotes gained traction, the scandal entered a completely different arena. Up until then, it was about Raja Jackson's actions, the brutal assault inside the ring, and the fallout from that single horrifying night. But when Rousey's name became attached to the story, everything escalated. Suddenly, it wasn't just about Raja. It was about what the sport itself stood for. The alleged statement that circulated the fastest was simple, yet devastating. That kid disgraced fighting. It wasn't combat. It was a mugging. It cut straight to the heart of the issue, stripping away all the excuses and distractions. For fans who already viewed Raja's attack as one of the ugliest betrayals of combat sports etiquette, those words hit like a hammer. And then came the quote that truly lit the firestorm. If I was still fighting, I'd personally deal with him myself. It was raw. It was bold. It was exactly the kind of fiery language that defined Ronda during her career. Whether or not she had actually said it almost didn't matter. It sounded authentic. Fans and media latched onto it immediately. Within hours, TikTok edits appeared, showing Rousey's highlights paired with captions about Raja. Twitter erupted with debates. YouTube thumbnails screamed, "Ronda Rousey threatens Raja Jackson." The story had transformed into something no one could ignore. Reactions from fighters poured in just as quickly. Michael Bisping, on his podcast, said it sounded exactly like something Ronda would say, and admitted he respected her for allegedly standing up for the integrity of the sport. Daniel Cormier echoed that sentiment, saying that every fighter who watched Raja's footage felt the same disgust. "When a guy goes limp, you stop. Period," Cormier explained. "If Ronda said she'd deal with him, I believe she could." Coming from Cormier, a man respected for his discipline and honor, that statement carried serious weight. But not everyone was on board. Critics argued that Rousey's alleged threat didn't help. Some ESPN analysts called it reckless, claiming that even if she hadn't truly spoken those words, the idea of Ronda threatening Raja only inflamed an already dangerous situation. On social media, debates raged. Half of MMA Twitter fantasized about Rousey arm-barring Raja into submission. The other half mocked her, bringing up her losses to Holly Holm and Amanda Nunes as proof she was irrelevant or past her prime. The divide only fueled the fire. Supporters said Rousey's words, real or not, reminded everyone of the fighter's creed: "You don't brutalize the helpless." Critics dismissed it as empty bravado. Yet either way, the numbers didn't lie. Every time her alleged comments were mentioned, engagement skyrocketed. The scandal wasn't just Raja's anymore, it had become Rousey's too. Raja's camp eventually tried to respond. A leaked statement, allegedly from someone close to him, took direct aim at Rousey. She had her time, she lost her belt, left the sport, and moved on. Now she wants to drag Raja's name for attention? It's laughable. The pushback was defiant, but it backfired. Instead of making Raja look strong, it painted him as dismissive of Rousey's legacy, a legacy that fans still respected, even if her career had ended in bitter defeats. The reaction was brutal. Fans mocked Raja's camp for daring to dismiss the woman who had once carried an entire division on her shoulders. Analysts pointed out that even if Rousey had stumbled at the end, her impact on the sport was undeniable. Her alleged words, they argued, carried more cultural weight than Raja had ever earned in his short, toxic career. And that's the heart of why Rousey's alleged involvement mattered so much. This wasn't just about one fighter condemning another. It was about the symbolism of a pioneer, someone who had broken barriers, allegedly stepping up to remind the fight world what the code of combat truly means. Her silence on whether the quotes were real or not only added to the mystery. Was she letting the rumors run wild on purpose? Was she content to let fans believe she had said it? Or was it all fiction that had spiraled out of control? No one knew. But in viral culture, silence often speaks louder than words. The scandal transformed into a cultural debate. On one side were those who believed legends like Rousey had a responsibility to speak out, to hold the next generation accountable when they betrayed the values of the sport. On the other side were those who argued that her alleged threats only escalated the circus, dragging the sport further into chaos. Mainstream outlets seized the angle. Headlines screamed, "Rousey targets Raja Jackson," and "Would Ronda come out of retirement?" Suddenly, Even casual fans who hadn't followed the original Raja footage were sucked into the story. What had started as a disturbing assault at a small-time wrestling event had become a global talking point, all because Rousey's name was attached. And Raja himself? His silence was deafening. With every new headline, every new debate, his reputation sank lower. He wasn't being discussed as a fighter anymore. He was being discussed as a cautionary tale, the son of a legend who had disgraced himself before ever earning anything on his own. His own actions had destroyed his credibility, but Rousey's alleged comments had buried it. The irony of it all is that Rousey didn't even need to say anything for the scandal to reach this level. Whether the quotes were real, exaggerated, or fabricated, her presence in the narrative gave the entire controversy a sense of weight and legitimacy it never would have had otherwise. She represented justice, discipline, and the old-school values of fighting that Raja had trampled on. That's why her alleged words mattered more than any others. Conor McGregor's condemnation made headlines. Nate Diaz's extreme call for punishment stirred outrage. But Rousey's supposed line, "If I was still fighting, I'd deal with him myself," hit differently. It tapped into the core of what fans expect from fighters: honor, accountability, and a willingness to stand up when someone disgraces the sport. Whether true or not, the damage was already done. The story had shifted. Rampage Jackson's name was permanently stained, not just because of what he did, but because of what fighters like Rousey allegedly said about him. And in combat sports, reputation is everything. Without it, you're nothing. In the end, the Rampage Jackson scandal isn't just about violence in a ring. It's about legacy. It's about how quickly the fight world can turn on you when you betray its code. It's about how voices of the past, even through rumor, can redefine the present. Raja wanted to prove himself as more than Rampage's son, but instead, he became the symbol of wasted potential and disgrace. And Ronda Rousey, her alleged words ensured that his downfall would never be forgotten. Whether she spoke them or not, she became part of the story. Her silence was enough, and her shadow, even in retirement, loomed larger than Raja could ever hope to. The fight world now waits to see what happens next. Will charges be filed? Will Raja ever step into a ring or cage again? Or will he disappear entirely, remembered only for a single night of disgrace? The answers remain uncertain. But what is certain is this: respect is everything in combat sports. Without it, you're finished. And for Rampage Jackson, respect is something he may never earn again. Thank you for watching. If you found this breakdown eye-opening, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss our deep dives into the stories shaking the fight world. And check out the other videos on your screen right now for more untold stories from combat sports history.